Hello again. This video is sponsored by XOR Studios, which is why today we're looking at the Riftbreaker. We'll be following my little adventure in survival mode on the rather difficult upcoming Crystal Caverns biome, which is a part of the free content update which drops today alongside a new DLC. If you want to grab it, the base game is currently on sale for a fat 40% off. Click my special link below to go and have a look. Okay, so in survival mode you're dropped on the map and told to survive for about an hour and a half as increasingly brutal waves of enemies try to get at your base. And why shouldn't they? It's their place, you just showed up and started drilling. I'm aware that there's some lore to this game and that the mech and lady you're here with have names already, but scrap that. I'm calling this thing here Gregory Drill-hands, for hopefully obvious reasons. First things first, you need to set up your HQ and get mining these blue and orange rocks. Carbonium and ironium, respectively. You know, like coal and iron, but a bit more alien. Then what you're going to want to do after that is remember that you actually need to power the miners and plop some solar panels down. Which is a strange thing to do in a cave, but as you can see there are spots where sunlight is coming through rather conveniently. Next, we'll fairly aimlessly place a couple of turrets and a cute little wall down whilst expanding our power generation and drilling out some more resource patches and a lovely geothermal vent. I also found these windy rocks and didn't realise that I could place wind turbines around them for power. Don't worry, I figure it out eventually, but it takes way longer than it ought to. Anyway, Gregory announces that a large group of creatures are incoming and this scary little icon appears on the map. So I place a couple of turrets on that side of the base and prepare my body for combat by slathering it in honey and tying sprigs of thyme into my hair. Since it's only the first wave of enemies, it's not so bad. This big diggy lad here and his small horde of nasty little scrabblers. Nothing the hammer can't deal with. So with first contact survived, it's time to address power generation. Solar panels are great, but there's that whole nighttime thing. So to fill the gap for now, I put this generator here on the carbonium patch. And then these halo needler looking things popped up and started giving my power conduits the big suck. For which they received the big hammer. These things just spring forth from the rocks here every now and then and do that, but they're not too much trouble really. Anyway, moving quickly onwards, we'll make a geothermal generator to provide an infinite and stable supply of angry pixies to our base, as well as some little boxes that increase our resource capacities. But there's no time for more base building. Another attack is incoming, from a completely different corner of the map this time. But one hastily erected wall, a few turrets and a big hammer get the job done just like last time. Another wave, with big red frogs this time and strange crystalline scorpion beasts. But it's not only the enemy that grows stronger. Our defenses are slightly more prepared. We have more turrets and Gregory has realised that he can not only mash things with a hammer, he can also throw grenades. Vanquishing so many foes has buoyed our confidence to foolish levels, enough to upgrade the HQ. A necessary task which unlocks the research tree, however doing so also attracts a rather large horde of nasties. Overconfidence, they say, is a slow and insidious killer. But there's nothing slow about the enormous horde of rock monsters trampling over Gregory's defences and then shortly afterwards, his corpse. You do respawn at your HQ in Riftbreaker, but Gregory knows when he's beat, and he's beat. Attempt 2. Just as before, we set up basic resource harvesting, geothermal power, defences strong enough to survive the initial waves of enemies, etc, etc. You don't need to see it all again. But this time, Gregory got a bit dwarfish and dug too deep, finding this weird shiny. Upon touching it, some ancient evil awoke and started shooting purple lasers at him. That's never good. Gregory tactically advances in a rearwards fashion, backing down the narrow tunnel he dug to get here, shooting and smashing as he goes. And just like that, the purple thing, whatever it was, no longer is. I should probably go back and interact with the shiny again, but now I'm scared it'll summon Cthulhu, so I'm leaving it for a bit. Instead, we'll make a power fist and a shotgun, because why not? Power fist go brrrr. Sort of like claws in Path of Exile, the power fist grants life on hit, though the amount is almost never worth wading into the hordes to get. Perhaps it is on the higher level versions with some mods. The shotgun is pretty neat as well. You can spam it or charge it up for a more concentrated blast. At this point I'm playing with turning the mud that the geothermal generators create into clean water and using it to grow plants which can be harvested for biomass to use in more generators. You can grow other plants which grant other resources, I think, but I'm fairly sure it's not worth trying to set this up in survival mode. You just don't really have the time or space to make it worth it. Alright, we've made it about half an hour in, survived a good few waves, and have some actually respectable defenses. We can do the HQ upgrade. I can feel it. It might not have gone completely cleanly, but hey, we did actually do it. This unlocks the communication hub, which in turn unlocks the research tree, which is getting some new stuff in this update, hence the placeholder red X icons all over the place. From here we can research new buildings and equipment. Right now my main concern is power generation, so I'll research animal biomass plants, letting us make use of all the slop left behind after mashing up the aliens. The next enemy waves are coming from the south of the map, so we'll have to build some new defenses, including our freshly unlocked flamer towers, which in retrospect might not have been the best option, but we'll get to that. I also made myself a rocket launcher, since it seems like explosive damage is the best tool against these rock monsters. Anyway, here come the enemies now. Oh dear. We did actually beat the wave, but all of our defenses are overrun and it's clear that this attempt isn't going quite right. Let's have another go, putting our newly acquired knowledge to better use this time. Once again, setting up resource gathering, power generation, defenses. Okay, never mind, this one's a bust as well. Attempt 4. This is the one where I figured out I can use wind power, which is very helpful. Alright, HQ upgraded on day 2, very nice, and researching towards a couple of more useful towers straight away. Rockets and railguns are what we want here, I think. Ordinarily, you'd also use artillery towers, but I guess for obvious reasons you can't use them in the caverns. On this run I prioritised researching, always making sure to upgrade the comms hubs whenever possible and having as many of them built as I could. As well as that, I was stacking multiple walls with air gaps to avoid losing towers to AoE attacks. I could feel my brain swelling to almighty levels now. Gregory Drill-hands, I think we've got this figured out. Next we research level 2 resource production, to more efficiently extract those very alien resources from the ground. Since in case you didn't know, the higher level drills produce more carbonium and ionium per second whilst depleting the resource patch at the same rate as before. The routine for fending off enemy waves is as follows. Gregory sallies out beyond the walls to personally take out the diggy bug lobster things before supporting the turrets in taking out the rest of the waves. And yeah, I also figured out that I needed to use teleporters. My standard defensive template looks like this. 3 layers of wall and as many turrets as I could afford. I figured out at this point that I could stand on the other side of the walls and go ham with the hammer to support my towers. The AoE stunning effect is god tier. So is finally being able to upgrade the walls, and so is adding railguns and plasma towers to them. I'm also wanting to upgrade the hammer at this point for extra mashing ability. Alright, I realise that I haven't actually showed the base much at this point, and to be fair, that's largely because I realised that in order to survive survival mode, my main focus needs to be on the defences. The base itself exists purely to serve them. I'm generating power with large solar and wind farms wherever they can be placed whilst trying to ensure that I have enough energy storage to last through the dark of night. I'm keeping resource production upgraded as much as possible and like I mentioned earlier, also focusing on the base's research throughput. No messing around with growing plants or anything like that this time. Alright, back to the subject of power generation. It's about time we upgraded those. Which requires some research of course, but once it's done we can fly around spamming upgrades on all of our turbines and solar panels. But that's boring. Let's look at the pretty railgun blasts. Very shiny. With this wave fought off, we've got just over 15 minutes remaining. So I'm going to make my shiny new hammer now, which has a mod slot, and I'm going to put a stun chance mod in it because that just seems like the right thing to do. I'll also start upgrading the sentinel towers to level 2 now, which unlocks a mod slot for them, but I didn't realise that yet. We also unlocked these strange crystal walls, which hurt things that break them at the cost of having far less hit points. I don't know whether it's worth it, but they look pretty cool. and now I realise that I can put mods in the towers, some of which seem really strong. I can't say I ever actually had the chance to watch them working, but they're things like projectile piercing and extra projectiles. It's cool stuff. I still feel the need to go and personally execute the lobster boys, but the walls held up remarkably well to the rest of the penultimate wave. So with about 5 minutes before hell breaks loose, I'll go set up a quick little cobalt mine to fund more advanced towers. Since I don't know, but I'm assuming this attack will sort of just come from everywhere all at once. And I was right, so this is probably going to get quite messy. A minute or so into the final wave, I was alerted to the deficiency of my ammunition pipeline, which could cause problems. Oh no, I don't think we're gonna make it, Gregory. Hold me tight, I want to die with you in my arms. Oh, never mind. Apparently we did just enough to call it a win. I'll take it. They showed me a mission completed screen, so that'll do, Gregory. That'll do. I honestly really enjoyed playing this game and figuring out how to get the surprisingly difficult survival mode done. I was only playing on normal difficulty, so you could get much more wet and wild with this if you wanted to. And of course there's vast quantities of stuff in the game that I didn't get to in the relatively short survival mode. The big StarCraft 2 Terran vs Zerg vibes really helped me feel at home here as well. That really strikes a chord with me, so thanks again to Exor for sponsoring this video, and check out my link in the description to go take a look for yourself. Anyway, please remain indoors. The caverns are kind of indoors, and it worked out well enough for Gregory. Thanks for watching, and until next time, goodbye.